I didn't have any game.
I remember something about you, though.
What?
So when I was young, you were, I don't know what interview, it was maybe like 60 Minutes or something. I remember the guy like walked into your bathroom and pulled out a book that said like Dating for Dummies.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always remembered that.
Yeah.
I was like, I probably need that book too.
Oh, yeah.
That was Mike Wallace.
It was.
Rest in peace. That he was, he was so good, and he went into the bathroom, come out, and had a whole topic to talk about.
I think that was where I said I was going to drive the boat.
Boy, talk about some things that got some kickback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dale says his quote was, to work in a relationship, I'm the one driving the boat. That was his.
Yeah. I was like, if I'm going to be in a relationship,
Okay.
I'm driving the boat.
Yeah.
And boy,
you got
was
some
I
kickback.
wrong.
Yeah. Was Twitter around back then?
Nope.
That's good.
Boy, if it had been, you'd have been done.
And and now that I'm married, I realize that that's not how it works.
Yeah. you're first mate at best.
And I'm good with it.
Yeah,
I'm like happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you drive the boat.
You drive the boat. I don't want the boat.
I'm just gonna cruise. I'm gonna ride over here. We have some similarities in the fact that we were both really shy and introverted. I had no game, so like when I would, my crew chief, Tony Urey Sr. used to joke that it was the Nomex. It was the only reason why the girls, the only reason why I'd ever get a girl to go out with me was because of the Nomex.
I was probably similar. So my first girl I dated was from a racetrack, and I think it kind of started from my mom. You know Johnny O'Connell, the driver? So he was a Corvette driver as well.
He was.
And I was racing a Cadillac at the time. I was 20 or 21, and he was like, Jordan, you gotta like, who are you dating? I'm like, I'm not dating anyone. And my mom actually went to him like, Johnny, try like teach him something. Teach him how to talk to a girl or introduce him to someone. So Johnny like took it literally. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't know this at the time. And so the team had like a couple girls to I think like hold the flags or like maybe sell shirts and stuff. And he's like, oh, there's this new girl. They all love her. Like, I love you to meet her. And I'm like, okay, I'll meet her. So I met her at the track in Ohio, and she was really nice. We went to dinner, really awkward dinner, obviously, first date. And then Johnny's like, all right, now you invite her to your next race because I was going to go home. She lived in Ohio. Next race was in Wisconsin, Road America. I was like, yeah, just fly her out to your next race. I'm like, okay, I guess that's the next step. So flies out to the next race. Super awkward again, like I don't know what to do. Comes to the track, meets the whole family, obviously, because my dad's there, my mom and Ricky, and meets everyone's hanging out. And then I go home, she goes home, and we're like kind of planning the next date. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll fly up to Ohio to see you. She's like, yeah, that would be great. So go to bed one night, wake up the next day for a triathlon at 4:30. I'll never forget all the details of this story. 4:30 in the morning, I'm waking up, I get a text. 4:28, group text with her name and like 4 others, and it says, hey, I'll see you soon from the number I don't have. And I'm like, hey, I'll see you soon. Who is this? And now I'm like getting ready for my triathlon. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. And it comes back, your worst nightmare, the sand monkey.
What?
And I was like, okay. Like it must be one of her friends kind of messing around. So I'm like, I have pretty bad nightmares, but the sand monkey doesn't sound so bad. Like kind of joking around. And I'm like, no.
So it's you, her, and another number you don't have.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, it's got to be like our friends messing around. And it comes back, shut up, Jordan. You don't know who you're talking to. You've been going out with my wife.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm like in shock. Like I'm like arriving at my triathlon, like what the heck's going on? And I'm like I don't think I said anything at this time. And he starts sending wedding pictures. And I'm like, holy cow. And then I'm like trying to piece it together in my head. I'm like trying to convince myself that this can't be true because she's like modeling. I'm like, maybe, these are some modeling pictures. She's a wedding dress modeling.
For the wedding magazine, of course.
Yeah. So I'm like trying to convince myself that this is okay. And so I'm like, I take it out of the group text and I text him like, hey, like, if this is true, like nothing happened. Don't worry about it. I'm really sorry if I'm in the middle of something here. Like I didn't mean anything, any bad intentions. Like I obviously had no idea. And he's like, yeah, I know who you are. I tracked your cell phone to Road America and watched the race. And then he like watched the whole race. And as the camera like panned across my pit box, he had like a picture of her in the pit box. Like, I know she was there with you. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and then he went back to the main text, like, hey, whatever name to the brother, like, hey, let's go get this guy.
What?
He's going to be in Laguna next week. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, don't come get me, man. Like, I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And then, so then it was all true. And like, she called me crying, apologizing, and she ended up being like 15 years older than me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That is
I was
crazy.
like, what an introduction to the dating world.
So what, did you ever sort it out with this dude?
With the guy, yeah. I'm like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I'm about to start a triathlon. I'm going to probably run as fast as I can now. But
I won the race thinking you were behind me.
Yeah. So like, I'll call you after. So I called him probably like 20 times throughout the day trying to get a hold of him, and he never answered, never got back to me. And then she called, like, apologizing, and then was like, wanted to make it work.
What?
She said like they were separated but not divorced. And I was like, like, I'd rather not get in the middle of anything. And then, so like, obviously we broke things off, and I actually looked her up a couple years ago, and they're still together, and they had a baby. So
What a happy ending.
yeah. So maybe it was like the last straw that brought them back together. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Damn, that made me so.
Nervous. I mean,
Yeah.
like this.
Are you sweating now too?
Yeah, we are.
Or else sweating? Yeah. Okay.
Hold on just a little bit.
What other stories do you got today?
I got all sorts of weird stories.
Good heavens. Well, okay. If we're on the topic of weird stories, nudes on the black market?
Yeah. I love that he put the titles on there. Is there no description to that one?
No, that's it. Nudes
So,
on the black
yeah.
market.
So do you want that story? So a couple years ago, my Instagram got hacked by like Russian hackers. And
Was your password not good?
I guess not. Yeah, Fluffy123, my dog's name. Yeah. So I'm like trying to figure out how to get back. Can't get it back for like 2 weeks, and then I'm like, there has to be a way to like contact Instagram or Facebook. So I Google contact number for Facebook because I guess they own Instagram. Like top one comes up. Yeah, contact Facebook. Facebook like /help. I'm like, this is it. So I call the number, and they're like, yep. And I give them my email and my username. Like, yeah, okay, we see your we see someone in Russia has your account. I'm like, okay, like, can we get it back? They, yep, give us approval to block their IP address, and we can block them, and then we can get you in and reset the password. I'm like, okay, and they're like, I approve. And they're like, okay. And they come back like a minute later. Okay, we've blocked it, but they're now pinging in Italy and Croatia. We need to ping these if you give us approval. I'm like, yeah, okay, just do it. Like,
All of them.
Yeah, block it, whoever you have to block. And then like 5 minutes, like I'm on hold, and like 5 minutes later, like they come back and they're like, okay, we've got some news for you. And I'm like, okay, like what's going on? And like, so the hackers have taken every one of your Instagram photos and edited them to make you nude. Like they edited all of your photos. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yes, and they're selling them. They're selling Jordan Taylor nude photos on the internet. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And they're like, well, we can take this down if you give us approval. And I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
just take them, just do it. Like, I don't need to give you approval to do these things. And then they're like, okay, and now we need you to go to the Apple store and buy a gift card. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you need to go buy a gift card and give us the code off the back. And I'm like, there's an Apple store like 30 minutes from here. It's going to take me an hour. And they're like, yeah, we'll wait for you. And I'm like, that's weird. So like, I go on speakerphone, like Google like Facebook scams. And that was like the -- scam. And I was like,
they
oh my
got you.
gosh. And I'm like, holy cow. Yeah, they had me on the phone for like an hour talking about my nude photos.
Wait, first, okay, so where did you see this number to go?
So there's no phone number to contact Facebook or Instagram, I found out. Like you cannot
And you
contact
Googled
them.
it, and
I Googled like Facebook help, and there's a phone number there, and
you
someone
called it.
out of the country
And
will
this
answer
person
it.
sounded
They sounded
creditable.
legit.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, they knew a lot
the
about
bad
like,
actors.
yeah.
God,
I got hooked quick.
They got you.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, but they must make a ton of money. Like I was ready to go to the Apple store and
yeah.
give them a code for something and not get any Instagram back. Yeah.
My goodness.
So whatever happened to your
So
Instagram?
then there's like,
What you do?
I can't remember how I got it back, actually. I think there was a portal where you can email or like send in notices, and I sent it in a bunch, and eventually someone picked it up. But I know like a lot of people have lost their Instagram because of it.
Yeah.
So you need to have like the 2-step authentication or something.
Damn. Do I got
Yeah,
that?
you need 2-step authentication.
About to. Right.
I hate to say this because I don't want the hackers trying to prove me wrong.
So that
but I
was
feel
the other,
pretty
that
good
was
about
the
my
other thing with
password.
it. So when they get it, the hackers send messages to all your like recent message people, like weird messages. So like people were sending me screenshots of messages that I was sending from my account, like, hey, why are you sending me these weird links to like other things? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not me.
Oh my God.
I hate that, man.
Yeah, they can't have nothing nice. Although, if you did have nude photos out there, that could just be another alter ego that you
That
could
is
just,
true.
You could
Yeah,
just
new
refer
name,
to that.
yeah.
You'd have to come up with something else.
Bert.
That would be it.
I think Bert. Yeah.
Bert, all right. So Bert is going to be the next alter ego if that thing ever happens. All right.
Oh man.
Surprise colonoscopy. Do we
Yeah.
want to go there?
That's a weird one.
Oh, because these
Sounds
other ones
pretty
are
weird.
normal.
Yeah.
It sounds weird.
You want that one?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
So, yeah, I guess it's a personal one, but it's a funny story. So, when I was racing for Cadillac in a Dallara, the Dallara simulator was in Indy, and I'd spend lots of time there, and the seat in there was super uncomfortable. And one day, like, my butt was so sore, like shooting sharp pains. And people are going to get to really know me on this podcast. And
That's the point.
so, like, crazy pain, like, really uncomfortable. And so I got home, and, like, I didn't want to tell. Like, my dad's a big worrier, so I'm like, there's no chance I'm telling him, or I'm going straight to the ER, and they're going to be all up in there. And so I talked to my mom, like, hey, who's our, like, I think it's gastro something doctor?
Yeah.
Something like that. And so I go see him, and I'm like, hey, I've got these pains. And like, okay, yeah, well, come back Monday at 6 a.m. and I'll have a look at you. And I'm like, okay, like, do I need to do anything? He's like, yeah, do this and this, and it'll be 5 minutes. And I'm like, so, like, I don't have to be put under anesthesia or anything? He's like, no, I'll do it myself. It'll be really quick. You'll be in and out 5 minutes. I'm like, awesome. Like, I don't want anyone else dealing with this or anyone else to know, obviously. And other than everyone else watching now. So I get there 6 a.m. and I walk in, and it's like a proper, like, medical facility. I'm like, this is way more intense than I was expecting right off the bat. I thought he was just going to, like, take a peek down there and tell me what was happening. And so I go in, and they instantly give me, like, a gown with, like, the open back. And I'm like, this is already weird. Like, I don't need this. I was just going to drop my pants for the doctor, I think. And she's like, okay, like, take a seat. I need to take your vitals. I'm like, okay. And she's like, so who's driving you home today? And I'm like, no, I'm driving myself. And she's like, no, but you have to have anesthesia for this operation. I'm like, no. The doctor said it was 5 minutes. I'll be in and out. I can drive home. And she's like, oh, that's weird. Like, we've never had that. And I was like, no, I think I'm here for something different then, because the doctor said it was fine. And she's like, okay, well, let me go check. So she's like, goes check with the different nurses, and they're like, okay, like, yeah, I guess the doctor said this was okay. And I'm, like, getting worried. I'm like, okay, like, I think it's okay too. and at this point, like, I've committed myself so much. You know, like, when you commit to something, you don't want to ask any questions. Like, I definitely haven't asked enough questions to the doctor to know what I'm going in for here with what's happening now. Like, I'm wearing a gown. They're trying to give me anesthesia, and I think he's just going to take a look at my butt. And so they start rolling me. They start rolling me down the, like, the hallways, and this nurse comes by. He's like, "Oh, we got a badass!" Like, because I was awake, and I'm like, what the heck does that mean now? Like, I'm like, you think I'm sweating now? Like, I was sweating profusely. Like, what is happening? Like, what are they gonna do to me in there? And, like, they roll me in, and
The
there's
word pun, though. We got a badass.
so, like, they roll me in, and then there's, like, all sorts of screens, and there's 4 nurses, and I'm like, holy moly, like, this is something. And they're like, all right, roll on your side. The doctor's about to come in. And I'm like, okay. I roll over, and the doctor, like, normal conversation, like, hey, Jordan, like, how's it going? How's the racing going? I'm like, hey, like, I don't want to talk about my racing right now. Like, just finish whatever's about to happen here. And then this, like, nurse walks in, like, oh, Jordan Taylor. Oh, you're the race car driver. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, what are the chances someone here recognizes a sports car driver? Like, this is just perfect. And so I roll over, and they're like, okay. So he's like, so you're gonna feel a little pressure. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, so you watch that screen, and that's the camera. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they're putting a camera up there. So they put the camera in. I'm like, holy cow, this is a colonoscopy. And so, like, he goes in, and I'm like, he's like, just watch the screen. I'm like, no, it's okay. So I'm like, I'm sitting there. Like, have you guys had one of these?
Yeah.
So, but were you
I
awake?
wasn't awake.
Okay, so no one's been awake.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You were not a badass.
No,
Not
I didn't know there was an option, but I don't think I'd have taken it.
I don't know if you should. So I'm, like, lying there on my side and, like, staring over there, and, like, at some point, like, it must hit, like, a trigger point where it feels like you have to poop. Like, it must be, like, some sort of sensor or, like, something in your body, like when it gets there, like you have to poop. And it gets there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm like holding onto the railing. I'm like, holy cow, I'm about to poop all over this guy's hands. Like his hands are down there with this camera. I'm like, I can't say anything. Like I can't, like I'm just frozen, and I'm like shaking like this, like sweating and like trying not to poop. And he's like, and I'm like, the nurse must have noticed I was shaking. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, is it normal that you need to poop right now? Is it a normal sensation? and the doctor's like, oh yeah, totally normal sensation. I'm like, well, I think I'm about to poop. So he's like, all right, hold on. And he starts backing out. And he backed all the way at it with the camera. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I don't need to poop anymore. And then and he's like, well, everything looks okay in there. You're good to go. And then I rolled out, and I was like, holy cow, I'm never doing that again.
Never doing that again.
And then like when I was like, and then even when I was out of it, I went out to whatever like the post-surgery thing was.
Yeah.
And a nurse comes in like, whoa, you're awake already? That was quick. And the other nurse like, nope, he was awake the whole time. She's like, oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't recommend that.
How do you find yourself in all these awkward
It's
situations?
unbelievable. I guess I don't ask enough questions. Like I didn't ask the girl if she was married at first. I didn't ask the doctor what I was going in for. I just trusted him to say it was a 5-minute look. Yeah, it was horrific.
Oh my gosh.
Traumatizing.
Didn't ask anybody if Facebook has a helpline, because that'd have been useful information.
Yeah, for sure. Holy cow.
Wow. Man.
That story also hasn't been told publicly.
Oh, it hasn't? Oh
No,
my god.
There you go.
Wow.
Get ready.
Are we going to be able to watch an IMSA race ever the same again?
And yeah, he's a badass.
He's a badass. You are, by definition, a badass, right? Wow, good for you.
My God.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the natural podcast transition from colonoscopies feeling like the poop to racing? Does anybody know that? We need to.
Technically, no.
Nope, got nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
What is Lava Lamp life lessons?
So that was kind of like that would be a lava lamp life lesson right there. Like always ask questions before.
Is that kind of like between two ferns?
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I had this like series on my Instagram where I did like lava lamp life lessons. Like the first one was actually always when you go in to date someone, always ask them if they're married first.
Oh yeah.
And then
So,
I had a few of those.
Where is all this content?
That's on Instagram.
It still lives there?
Yeah, it still lives there. Like hashtag probably lava lamp life lesson, I think.
You should think about a series, a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I thought about a YouTube channel. I mean, I do everything by myself. Like everything that I film is just literally on my iPhone, and I usually just prop it up with some duct tape.
You
And
should work for Dirty Mo.
Well, you don't remember this, but you.
I
and
do
have-
remember.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
our-
we did a call. Yeah,
We had a phone conversation. It was
I do.
years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
My impression was you just didn't really want to be on the phone.
Oh, really?
Was
I was
that-
probably
was that
sweating that day too. I was like, holy cow.
No, like I said, we hung up. I'm like, I don't think he's interested. I don't think.
Well, I think I was nervous because like usually everything I do is just off the cuff, whatever I want. I think when I have to like be planned to put
of
stuff
course,
out,
yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I can perform on the spot. Like if you need a video by Tuesday, like I'm going to be stressed thinking of a video.
Yeah,
So I was like, holy
100%.
cow, this might be too much for me. Like I just do stuff as
Whenever
I
you
do
want.
it. Yeah.
I know, but that's all right. I mean, you can,
Oh, dude.
I just saying like all I'm saying is like so. Jordan, you have all these stories and all this great content, and it's just kind of you got to go find it, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure,
you need to put it in
One
a spot for me.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
so people can go,
a YouTube
hey,
channel or something.
this is where it's at.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
It's brilliant stuff,
It
and
is.
it's brilliant because you're so creative with it. And I think that it's not just that you're creative, but also there are most race car drivers. I think the common logic, forget race car drivers, athletes are too afraid to put themselves out there.
That there's some of the fear of putting themselves out there. One of the things that we combat a lot with the young guys is they don't think that their life's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's even though we have these giant egos and we're trying to be cooler than each other, there's a part of them that thinks nobody's gonna care about this.
Yeah.
I'm not important, right?
Yeah.
What I do is no different, but people do care, right?
Yeah. I think
Do you-
that's why like people like you so much because you're so relatable to like the average fan.
But he's the one that thinks that way. By the way,
I also have a hard time like sharing because I feel I can before I think, man, this would be cool to share this.
Yeah.
And then I can think of 10 reasons why I should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I don't.
Yeah. I have the same thoughts a lot of the time.
Yeah. So
But at the same time, like when I follow someone, like if I follow a race car driver, I'll probably unfollow them if they're only posting workout pictures or race car pictures.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I
you
want to know
only-
who the guy is.
You only get the workout pictures right before the Daytona 500.
From NASCAR guys.
Yeah. They're all, every one of them's like, in the gym, season's coming.
Unless it's DiBenedetto.
You know?
That guy must live in the gym.
Well, yeah.
I bet he does.
There's a couple, like Stenhouse
Yeah, he's
and a
a
couple of those
CrossFit
guys
guy.
are like
Yeah.
legit in the gym. But then there's the other drivers that never go into the gym. But boy, before the
Daytona
Daytona 500, they're going to
That's
get a
pretty
picture
funny.
of them in the gym.
Is that because
Me too. Me too. I'm doing it too, guys.
Is that because they got to get on the scale and have that
No.
number flash, or just because they
It's just
just
the-
a brand
the ego.
look? Ego. I
Yeah.
got
Like I've been working harder than a year and a half. Yeah.
I'm in there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're good because you absolutely have to humble yourself. I mean, to tell that story right now, you could have probably thought, I'm talking about the colonoscopy. It could have been any of them.
Yeah.
But you could have probably come up with 10 reasons why you probably don't want to tell this story on it. But yet you humble yourself to the point and you laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I think most people are too afraid to do. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
But I like sharing it because like I told my girlfriend last time, like, these are some of the stories I think I'm going to tell. Like
What'd she say?
if I need to, I'm like, and I told that story. She's like, wow, like that's pretty bold that
To
you
do
tell
it,
that.
yeah.
And I'm like, but like if I heard someone else tell that, like if I heard like a driver or an athlete or someone tell that story, I'd be like, holy cow, like
Yeah.
I probably can't relate with that story. Like most people probably can't relate to that story, but like that's a normal guy's problem. Like that's not a race car driver's problem. Like race car driver's problem is going to be like, holy cow, like I had a bad day at the racetrack,
Yeah.
which no fan can relate to. But a driver going to have a surprise colonoscopy, like that's an everyday problem. Like someone else has probably done this situation. And I think I would respect a guy telling that story just so I can relate to him and be like, that's a normal guy.
All right, guys, I know a little bit about cars, so believe me when I tell you that Tire Pros, they're the real deal. They've got great people, great service, and they can take care of all your automotive maintenance needs. Plus, they're a sponsor of this show, so you know they got great taste in podcasts. So check out Tire Pros. Follow them on Facebook and tell them that I sent you.